Okay, just continuing on here. Okay, I'm going to try to be, like I said, I'm trying to be more focused here. So, what did we talk about? Well, I'm reading off my notes here that I took, Fred. Value. So in your video, you had wanted to talk about the evolutionary value of having a self, objects, and the way we use metaphors for objects, or we talk about metaphors, talk about objects metaphorically, and binary decisions in terms of which we just define ourselves, as in being man or woman. Uh, are you atheist or are you not, or are you Christian and whatever Islam? These were all some examples you gave. So I guess the first thing I wanted to say was that you mentioned that if you were going to design a human being from scratch, functioning in environments, especially social environments, over time, where the interactions are sometimes asynchronous, a lot of times. So you have to remember people, or you have to balance two things at once. And you have to have all these organizing principles to maintain integrity. Not sure what those are, but so you would build. You said that if you would probably build in a central self, a coherent. I think you used Daniel Dennett's term, which was a center of narrative, center of gravity, or something. He says he's a um, center of narrative gravity. Anyway, get it together. All right, so I don't know why you would do that personally. I mean, if you're building robots, um, like we said in the last video, uh, this idea of a self is pretty new, um, but no doubt there does seem to be at least operationally bounded by the flesh, operationally closed organism. Um, Even though we are certainly thermodynamically open, out of necessity, we need to be open for all of the, for breathing and for us, taking in the, I guess, information, or taking in the phenomena around us, or are available to us, accessible to us, and getting away from other things, running away. So, uh, so I mean, the question is, evolutionarily, why would you build in a single responsible agent? I mean, why wouldn't you just want a distributed bunch of processes that had no real coherence? I mean, if you're just defining it in a human as an organism, which you said, is functioning, doing all these functions. Well, I mean, Gabriel Marcel is an existentialist philosopher who said that we live in a broken world, and one of the characteristics of the broken world was that people thought in terms of thought in terms of technical, uh, and technical or techniques that could be used to solve problems. Everything is thought of as a problem, and that's one of the things about it. It tends to diminish mysteries. We don't need to go into that right now, but it's an interesting distinction he makes between problems and mysteries. But also, he talks about the functionalized person, where everybody thinks of themselves as having these functions, and that's very characteristic. And you really you hit it like to the T in the way you were describing it. I thought that was funny. So I don't know if we should look at ourselves as just a bunch of organism who does a bunch of functions. I'm not trying to give you a lecture here. I just want to call attention to another school of thought, especially coming from phenomenology, that is a very keen on picking up on, like, on certain ways of speaking that maybe maybe uh, you know would would rather not. You'd probably I know that there's a whole other vocabulary out there that could be used. That's probably more helpful and more accurate. Anyway, so I don't know why you would want to have a central. I mean, that sounds kind of Cartesian to me. I mean, I know that that's beating the dead horse here, but uh, I mean, if you're talking about robots, that you seem to be talking about at first, um, Rodney Brooks is a roboticist who has showed that having no central computer uh, is the best way to go about building a robot. It seems you just have a bunch of distributed multi-layer a hierarchy of multi-layer processes where a learned function on one level becomes a new, I mean, calls it exaptation from comes turns into a whole new function when it's reintegrated into a higher level. These layers of tightly coupled effectuators and actuators, so sensory motor, elements that are tightly coupled. But there's no leader. It's just sort of got like there's just synergies working toward certain goals. So I don't know why you would want to define it in terms of a self. That seems to me like just something that you picked up on just because you're so used to self that you're then saying that you would do that. I don't think that's a good design principle. And usually biology doesn't come up with the greatest engineering ideas in the way we would think of engineering. It comes up with a much more tricky and interesting biological designs, which are just sort of accidental and put together and turns out to be perfect for the environment, not for some predestined plan, but just as it's just on its way. It's just sort of just snowballing. It's not thinking really ahead of much. Okay, so that's why I don't think that building especially a center of responsibility would be no good. Why would you want that? It would be being held accountable for things. I don't know. I mean, I could see where it would help the society in a sense, but I can imagine a society where no one's held responsible for things, and there's other ways of going about without having a central. You could just cut off somebody's hand, and then you don't have to have a central anything. You just get rid of the problem as you go. I think it was an accident. Is the point? Okay, if you're thinking of it in evolutionary terms. Sorry, it took so damn long. Sorry. Okay, prototypical objects. They're of all different kinds, and some are more prototypically objects than others. You said that steam or a cloud, like to say like fog rolling in. If the fog goes away, the fog comes back. Is it the same fog, different fog? Rain. What do you mean by rain? Rain. I mean, do you mean like individual raindrops, the rain itself, the event of this sheer event of just the happening of and then raining? I mean, you know, you say it's raining. What do you mean? Like where? And are you? What does it mean? It obviously does not refer to the rain. Refers to the event that you're in, already caught up in. And waterfalls, things like that. Are yeah, I see where you're coming from. Um, Brian Cantwell Smith wrote a book in 1996 called On the Origin of Objects. Check it out. He's got a really cool theory and a way for a logic. He uses like Venn diagrams and stuff for distinguishing between. He's a computer programmer, distinguishing between particulars and individuals. So we have individuals which are different. This is an individual. This here, and then like something like a book or the rain. These are for particulars. They're not well-defined boundaries. So I guess what I'm trying to say, once again, I'm running out of time here, is that you sort of, we're talking about who is this someone that's acting and interacting and doing all this stuff. That's the question. But then neurocognitive science seems to want to turn it into question of what, and then they select some idea of the self. So they go from the who to the what. Very, very tricky. And then as Merleau-Ponty would say, that they sublimate this question up to an ideal sphere. Instead of asking about the concrete who, they ask about a what. And anybody can ask about a what, and it doesn't. If I say who, it really matters who's asking. But if I say what, anybody could ask the what question, and it's not very personal. It becomes more impersonal. So what is this self that's acting and gesturing and moving and interacting and thinking? And then the next question they come up with is how? How does the brain generate this self? And then some of them will say, like Metzinger, will say that it's a fiction, it's fake. It's an illusion. Some like Damasio would say that it's the necessary part of consciousness is this sense of self. And if you're going to study the neurocorrelates of consciousness, you've got to incorporate this in there. You got to take account of it, and it has some real explanatory power versus just being explainable but having no explanatory power, like Metzinger is going to say. So we went to the who, to the what, to the how does the brain do it, but we never really got any closer to understanding who this self is. And I think that's what we want to understand. God, I'm going to have to make like 10 more videos on this anyway. I'm just going to stop it now. So.